All right, so thank you for coming to our first math homeschool connection night. First, there will end up being like 18 homeschool connection nights a year per month. Tonight we're going to talk about everything with whole numbers, and then we will touch on decimal place value because we talked about decimal place value in first advisory, and then we revisit decimals in third advisory. The change to the county this year, we used to do whole numbers and everything with decimals, but they've now changed a little bit. So we started decimals actually yesterday, sitting in tonight, and we'll keep working on that for the next few weeks. So again, thank you very much for coming. I know that your ideal Thursday night might not be spent in the classroom with Mr. B, but I don't know. I appreciate you coming.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
I know I have attention.
You'll have to move down. So thank you for coming. This is kind of going to guide you in helping review different math decimals to start taking them and getting them ready. Kind of a next step from the flipping video. This is a little bit more intensive. If you have questions, you can ask me that you can't really ask the video. I gave you all a little packet that's basically just presentation in printed version. So feel free to take notes. And this presentation is available on my website that you're looking at it right on your screen right now. And we'll be kind of going over concepts in general. If you have a specific question about your child, feel free to talk to me afterwards, or shoot me an email, or text messenger, or however else you want to contact me. So the first thing that we talk about is the whole numbers, the place value. Whole numbers are pretty much anything to the left of the decimal, whereas decimals are going to be anything to the right of the place value. We go from the one place all the way to the million place. We also talked about the 10 millions and the 100 millions just to really establish the pattern that every period has a 1/10,000, 1/10,100. And so that's kind of how they do that. This is so we go from 1/10 hundreds, let's pretend up with hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, millions, and then from the book videos, you know, we also did 10 million and 100 million. Conversely, the decimals for decimal place value. Decimals are part of a whole, so less than a whole number. I tell the students to think of everything to the left of the decimal as dollar bills, and everything to the right of the decimal point as coins. That kind of helps make them a little bit more concrete rather than an abstract concept of whole numbers and parts of whole numbers. The first one is the tenth place, and the tenth place. What I do here is I have them where the 1 under the decimal point and then the 0, because that shows a 10, and then they know that everything to the right of the decimal place ends with th. And then same thing for the hundredth place. There's 100 under the 3, and then the last place value there's 1,000 under the 5, so they see 1,000. It's just a quick, easy way. I actually even have them box it out so they know, like, if I say what is the place value of the 3, they'll box all the way to the 3 and see that there's a 100 underneath, and they know to the right of the decimal point that is th. The other way, the 1 is like a dime because 10 place value takes 10 of them to make one whole, so 10 dimes make one whole. The 100th place value is like a penny because it takes 100 pennies to make $1, and then the thousandth, there's really the American coins don't go any smaller than that, so there's really no coin to relate it to that. So for whole numbers, the student and decimals, the students will need to be able to read, write, and identify the standard form, which is just the numbers, the written form, which is it in words pretty much. Sometimes when they're doing IXL will count the problem as wrong if they don't have the dashes or the commas. I'm not too terribly hung up on the dashes and the commas, or the fact that they can identify the place value of each one and make sure they read it. If we're thinking back to the flip video about this, the way that I have them say it is every time you see a period or comma, that's a new period. So you say what number that is, and then whatever period it is, then you read the next number in between the two commas, say what period it is, and then in the one period, you don't actually have to say 251. You can just say 215, and then you're done from there. Expanded form, which this kind of trips in past years at least, this has tripped the students up because the expanded form in third grade looks Here, we actually break it down into the exact place values. So they do 3 times 1 million. So they have to go to it and see that there's 3 in the 1 million place, so that's 3 times 1 million. Same thing for each one. They actually did a very good job on this when we were doing it in the beginning of the year. From what I saw, it's just a little different from what they're used to from third grade. And we talked with the third grade teachers how to make sure that they can do what they need to do for third grade, but also set them up for success in fourth grade. In decimals, they will also need standard form, again, just in numbers, written form, in words. The SOL, the thing that I look through when I'm figuring out what I'm supposed to be teaching your students, does mention expanded form in decimals. Truth be told, in the fourth grade, I've never seen an example problem or in anything the Virginia Department of Education has released with decimals in expanded form. We will still talk about it, but it's not something I'll see expanded form in whole numbers a lot, but I've really never seen an example problem or release test item with expanded form with decimals. So that's just something they need to be aware of. Still works the same way as the whole numbers. They do however many it is in the place value plus so on and so forth. One thing that they will see a lot of in decimals are the picture models, and that's going to really rely on what counts as one whole, and that's the video that they're supposed to be watching tonight, or some students have already watched it. They mixed up which video they were supposed to watch which night. If the long stick is counted as one whole, each little block within the stick is 1/10 because it takes 10 of those blocks to make one whole stick. But then on the flip side, if the grid or the flat, I forget what I refer to it in the video, is the one whole, each long stick now represents 1/10 again because it takes 10 of them to make one whole, and each little block represents 100 because it takes 100 of those. So just the transition between remembering, making sure you look which one is represented as one whole and which one is represented as part of one whole is very important for them to realize. And so this is an example for, this is really straight from the Department of Education. So they will see questions like this on the SOLs and different assessments they'll be taking inside class. It will give them a number that, just a random number, and then I'll give them a place value chart. And they have to actually drag, so the 0 would be in the 10,000th place, so they drag it there. The 1 is in the 10th place, they drag it there. The 2 is in the 100th place, they drag the 2, so on and so forth down the line. You'll also see an example of this right here that includes decimals. And in class, we're also practicing these examples. So they did it with egg cartons and number files a couple weeks ago. This week, they're doing it up on the smartboard. So that's just really helping them to identify the different place values and just look at it in a different way rather than having the number horizontally written and just labeling down there. Other examples, this one for decimals, it will just simply say which digit is in the 10th place of this number. And there's the number, so they would have to identify the 10th place. That would be really important for them to put the 1 underneath the decimal point and then the 0s and then kind of box it out so they see that they look for the 10th and right above the little 10 in the box is an 8, so then they would choose that. And then here it's the 2 I am 32,000, or how is 2 and 3200ths written in words. And if you look at this, the way that they design these tests are unfortunately sometimes designed that it seems like they're trying to trick the students because every answer there is kind of a reasonable mistake. 232, if you're looking at that quickly, that does kind of look like 232. 2 and 32/10ths, well, you see there's 2 a decimal point, and you know 10th has something to do with decimals. 2 and 3200 is correct. And 232,000, again, there's a decimal, you know thousands has something to do with decimals. That's kind of how they come up with this, these ideas. It's always, when we're doing things in class, I try to talk them through, like, here's how they came up with this example. Don't make that same kind of mistake. You kind of got to outsmart the test makers, because unfortunately, that's how they're trying to assess if that's a good job or not. So with whole numbers and also decimals, what we're going to really just focus on whole numbers is rounding. And I basically give them 5 steps. And like I said, it's going to follow the same rules as rounding decimals. We won't round decimals until the third advisory, but if they understand rounding now in the first advisory, they will understand rounding So the first thing that I tell them is to find their place, and I have them underline that digit. And so this one there is supposed to round to the nearest hundred, so I have them underline the one place. Then I say look next door, and that looks to the right, and they circle that. The reason being is because when we get down to step number 5, that will kind of help them remember that the circle eventually turns into a 0. If it's 5 or above, they give it a shove, or they might also say 5 or greater, add one more, just two of the different rhymes. So basically what that means is if the number that's circled is 5 or greater, it's going to make the 1 go to a 2 because it's closer to the 100 than it is, closer to 200 than it is to the 100. On the other side, if it's 4 or less, it's going to stay a 1 because it's closer to 100 than it's 200. One thing that we started this year is just pretty much representing that on the number line is when they underline it, they put a 0 on one side. So let's say the number is 4,289, and we want to round to the hundredths place. So they find their place, they look next door, so then they have a number line here. We just go with 0 or 1 because 0 helps them remember that nothing's going to happen. 1 means you're going to have it, something else is going to happen. They could also go 2 and 3 because if it's going closer to 2 or closer to 3, so then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then they plot where 8 is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they see 8 is closer to 1. So that means really add 1. So that digit would pop up. Digits in the front stay the same. And then digits behind. 0 is your name. Reason being, so that's why we use the circle, because the circle is like 0. So they know that and everything behind it is going to turn into a 0. So I found the number line is a really good pictorial representation for some of the students. Some students can look at the numbers and realize that's closer to 10, that one's closer to 0. But the number line really helps it kind of make a concrete picture for them. This video here that you can always go back and watch at home, this is We Will Round You. It was filmed by my students last year. It's just that We Will Round You, and it just goes through all those steps. We've done it in class a couple times, but they weren't quite ready for report as of last time we did it. If you want to go back, listen, I'm never falling for that again.
I think they should always include them.
Well,
And it'll just be their face. That would be perfect.
they did, because the first time I ever did green screen was on St. Patrick's Day. And so I was not thinking it through. It was very, well, it was there. But we worked around it, so now I remember. Send a message that says no green. So this is one example. It says, what is 7,613,542 rounded to the nearest 10,000? So what they would do here, obviously round it to 10,000 to see which one matches up. And again, if we look at these answers, they're all kind of reasonable answers. In this one, they simply round it to the 100,000th place instead of the 10,000th place. That's the correct answer. The next one, they rounded to the 1,000th place. And in that one, they rounded incorrectly to the 10,000th place. So you see that the answers are all kind of, you can get to those answers using the number and the direction. So it really forces them to really show a good understanding, not only of how to round, but also what each place value is. So you see in 4th grade, each skill builds on the skill that preceded the skill. That's skill 1. In addition to comparing numbers, they will also, or in addition to rounding numbers, they will also do comparing numbers. They will also do this with decimals. But basically, comparing just means is the number bigger or smaller than the other one. And I like to use the example of Pac-Man or an alligator. The Pac-Man or an alligator one is the bigger one. So what I have them do is I stack the numbers up on top of each other by placing or matching the place values. I have them write the first number right to left, and then the next number left to right, and then the next one right to left. That just kind of helps them line up the place values across the board. And then they will circle each place value. See, both of those are 4, so the neither one is Yeah,
It
well,
goes the
I don't
other
even,
way, so the big one is equal to the little one. But that's not
Oh,
actually how it is, right?
right, well, it's like,
It's like that,
it would be like that. I don't have the numbers like thinking of each other. I just say like.
No, but like, when you say it's like an alligator or like this is like, still in fourth grade, and I'm figuring this out either, so it makes no sense to me, it should be the other way around, but now I know that my sense is wrong, and it is the.
Well, I go with. But,
Gotcha.
so I tell them, I was like, because sometimes they'll be like, well, Mr. There's $9 there. I'm like, well, that's like $9, and that's like $1. So it's like, so in that case, how does true the 9 for the one? But I was like, here is like $100. That's $0. Which one would you rather have? And I click to them, and then I'll need a check for $100 for explaining that to you. Really bad joke. So whole number examples for comparing. This one says which digit can be placed in the box to make the statement true. And basically that's an understanding of place value. They see that both sides of 1,000. So if they did this top to bottom stacking method, they would put it, they see that they want to make the numbers equal. And so they would have to put whatever number is down there, up there, which is a 4. These ones are a little bit more tricky because while the concept of comparing is still the same, it's a lot more work because rather than saying, is this statement true and saying like this is greater than this one gives them 4 and they have to work out each of them, stack each one. So if so it says like 84 and 85, it says 851, 811, and basically gives them 4 different examples. Rather than just having one example to solve, they now have 4 examples they need to solve. They do need to solve each one just to make sure that there are not more than one correct answer. So it's kind of, they might understand the concept of comparing, but a lot of times, especially not so much on the in-class assessments and the in-class activities, especially on the SOL at the end of the year, it becomes more of a test of endurance than how well they understand the material, as all of your students went through 3rd grade, so you're well aware of. Some of you have parents, students who have gone through multiple grades at SOL, so you're aware of that. So basically, all they would have to do here, same process, stack each number, see which one, Pac-Man, alligator, whatever you want to use, is eating correctly, and then that's their correct answer. So there are a couple common mistakes that I've seen, not necessarily just in this classroom, but over the couple of years I've been teaching with whole number place value. So the first one, obviously, is just identifying the place value wrong. That's why it's really important for them to realize the pattern that each period is always 1/1000, 1/1000, 1/1000. As long as they get that pattern down and you remember each period is different, it's going to really help them a lot. Once we start throwing in decimals, that's where they get mixed up a little bit because they might not look real well. This morning when we did our Thunderdome problem, it was this one, which and the question was which place value is the 3 in? A lot of them said the hundreds place. And if this were a comma, that would be totally true. And then I said, a lot of them I just had to say, that's not the comma, that's the decimal point. And then they realized, they remember from the video that I did for the 100. So once we start throwing in decimals, that's when they'll start identifying the place values wrong because it's kind of hard for them to cross over between whole numbers and decimals. And I'm going to go over some activities that you can do that kind of help them with that. Rounding to the wrong place or not rounding all choices. If we go back to that example I was talking about with the comparing where it gives them 4 choices, some questions they might have is we'll say which number could be rounded to this, it may say like which number could be rounded to 850. It might give them like 855, 854, 847, 842. So that gives them 4 numbers that they have to round to see if it gets to 150. And again, test fatigue might set in. They might, rather than suddenly having one problem about rounding, they now have a problem with 4 mini problems within it. Or when they're comparing numbers, not lining up the place values correctly, which is why I have them go left to right go to an example here, if I say, and I say, what is the place, which place value is in the hundredths place? They, generally speaking, remember that there is something to do with putting a 1 underneath the number and some zeros. I've seen students will put the 1 there, and then say the 3 is. But then I say, well, you have, because they have the right concept, the 1,000 underneath will help them, but they need to know that it goes under the decimal point, and then the zeros, and then they look for the 100, and they box it out, or if they're just looking for the digits, they can box it out like that. So really understanding where that 1 goes, I try to tell them that the 1's not going to go under any digit. It's just going to go directly under the place value or the decimal point, and then the zeros will go out from there. And then that will help them both identify the place values, naming the number, and then figuring out the value of the number, figuring out everything. The little 1,000 trick was taught to me last year, I think, and I've noticed as soon as I started with that, to really help the students really realize what they wanted there. Simply counting wrong, sometimes, kind of going back to that example where they might count over how many place values there are, and mixing up the different models and decimals, mixing up, remember, sometimes it's the long stick and sometimes it's the grid, mixing up which decimal model they're really trying to show there, just making sure that they're always looking back to see which one does represent one. So there are a number of ways to practice all this stuff I just talked about. The first one is you can always go back and review the different flip videos that have been assigned up to this point. IXL, the website, IXL A is going to be all concepts about place value, broken down from identifying place value, rounding, we'll be comparing it in there as well. One way that we do place value in class is I give them an egg carton and a bunch of different numbered tiles. So your numbered tiles at home can be just as easy as take 0 bucks and put them into a bunch of different squares. I have them put down in the egg carton 9, well, for 9 you have to have 2 egg cartons. But I have them put down 9 tiles in a row and then go back and tell me the place value of each number. Or on the other hand, like actually their math station this week is they put down all the number tiles in a row, then they roll just a normal die, and each different number on the die coordinates to a different place value. So if they put down their 9 numbers, they roll it and comes up to a 1, maybe they need to round to the millionth place. Or if they put down 2 numbers, they roll it, goes to the 6, maybe that's the 100th place. So it's just a way that rather than just giving like a worksheet saying fill this out, worksheet A is very fun for students to practice that way, and B it's a finite amount of problems until you run out of paper. This way with the egg carton and the number tiles and the dice, it's really unlimited, and they're gonna get hundreds of different examples doing it that way. Just keeps it a little bit more fun, and especially because we're doing it in school, they kind of already know. You can tell them like, oh, just put them in this is a station like you do at school. One way that we were doing in class today to practice decimal place value, I would say write a dash, a decimal point, a dash, a dash, a dash. And then I said, you see decimal point, what's the very first thing you should do? And they now plug in their 1,000. And then we would kind of fill in the number. I would say, in the 1's place, I want you to put a 4. And they'd all hold up their whiteboard, secretive, no one else could see. Have you write down my word? I said, in the 100th place, I really stress the at the end of it, just to separate the page 20 and B, it helps them. It makes it a little more currency center. Say in the 100th place, put an 8. In the 10th place, put a 1. In the 10th place, put a 5. And in the 1,000th place, put a 7. And then I said, does anybody read anything? If they don't, then we turn and we see who got it right, who didn't. And then if there are people who didn't get it right, we'll talk about the mistake. Like, oh, look, you just mixed up those 2 numbers. Or one common one I was seeing today was they were mixing up 10s and 10ths because they might just not have been listening to the TH. Or some funny things that were happening was when I would this is really quick and easy to do. You can do this in the car. Well, you can put people whiteboard in your car or something. They're getting annoying in the car. Tell them to make some dashes or dashes and dashes. Long day. So you can always say that and really just go from there. So that's really quick and easy. And you can always extend this all the way out to the 100 millionth place. And we don't go any further than thousandth place, but I mean, you can go as many place values as you want. Really quick and easy way to check their understanding of place value. And but egg cartons and number tiles, that's going to be a lot of. I mean, you can use that for a lot of things. I just said place value around in there. We also use egg cartons and number tiles for comparing. They put down 4 numbers in one egg carton, 4 numbers in another, and then they have to practice. They can actually, I mean, physically move the egg cartons if they want to and stack them that way, or there's right down there. But egg cartons and place value and number tiles, that's going to really be really quick and a little bit more motivating than so we will also be talking about adding and subtracting. Well, we already have talked about adding and subtracting whole numbers, and the things to do there. First, line up the place values, and make sure, again, like with comparing numbers, go left to right when you're writing down the first number, and then right to left, just to make sure the place values are correct. Then you add or subtract. The biggest thing that fourth graders in the past and current fourth graders are mixing up is not pretty much class-wide. They have a very good handle on addition. It's subtraction is where most mistakes are made, especially subtracting across zeros. And I'll walk through an example of both what common mistakes between fourth graders make and also the correct way to do it. Just the only mistake I really ever see with addition is when it's like 8 plus 4, that's 12. You can only have the 2. They do kind of remember that because that's really been stressed in the lower grades that you can only have 1 digit in each place value. So the next one kind of has to go to the next place value. Subtraction is really where most of the mistakes are being made. But the really nice thing about addition and subtraction is there's really no reason for the students to get it wrong, because with addition you can check it with subtraction, and with subtraction you check it with addition. So if they check it correctly, they should either see, yes, I have this right, no, I don't have this correct. The opposite could be, or they make a mistake in both of them, false insecurity. But by and large, especially with them being very strong in addition, that even if they make a mistake on the subtraction, they'll do the addition problem to check it, and then they realize they made a mistake. So what I'm talking about subtracting across zeros is a problem like this, where it's 90,084 minus 1,259. So the students see, oh, I can't take, well, the first mistake I will see before we even get to subtracting across zeros is that they will see an 8 and a 9, and even though the 8's on the top, they'll know there's a difference of 1 between 8 and 9, and they'll just go like that. Same with that, you'll see a 4 and 5, see there's a difference of 1, same thing, and same thing. Which then I tell them, before they even check, think about if that makes sense. You're taking away, which you're somehow adding, you're ending up with more than you started with. That doesn't make sense. That's the first common mistake I'm seeing, that they know that there's a difference, and they have the number sense to realize how far apart they are, but they don't really think about it. There's a really good rhyme that third grade did a really good job with, that they say like more on top, do not stop. More on the floor, go next door, and that kind of will go with barring. So they see you can't take 9 away from 8, so they know you have to go next door and borrow, exchange, gone through a couple different. But basically, you're taking a group of 10, giving it over here. So this drops down to a 3, and that would become an 18. And so 18 minus 9 is 9. Now here they see you can't take 5 away from 3. They go next door, and well, there's nothing there to take from, so they go next door again. Then they finally get to somewhere where they can take something from. So that becomes an 8. Here's where a lot of the students will make a mistake. They'll get the group of 10 over here, realize it still needs to keep going down the line, and keep going down the line. So 13 should have done, because every time I try to, and it's a very abstract concept for them to really think of, unless we get our face value up and really physically move the place values down the line, and we have done that. Every time you move it over to the right, the thing on the right is going to make it bigger, and the thing on the left that it's taken from is going to go down by 1. So every time they shifted a group of 10 over, this should have become a 9. This should have become a 9 because it eventually ended there. On the flip side, I'll go back. And so then when they're done, what I tell them to do is box out the bottom 2 numbers and check with that. I always tell them to put the bigger number on top, and you're going to do the opposite operation. Check it. I lined it up incorrectly, as I've just been saying the whole way. They're supposed to go the opposite direction because I'm 24. I can line it up correctly. So if you're watching at home, how I just lined it up, that's one. So 9 plus 9 is 18. They can't put an 18 like that because that's not how our number system works. So the 1 goes up. I have them add it and circle it, just so they're very aware that you just carried something over. You need to make sure you do something about that. So 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 5 is 4. Carry that up. 7 plus 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Carry that up. 2 plus 8 is 10. And then, so we see that number matches with that number, those numbers match, and that number, those numbers match. Or they put their point next one. If they check and the numbers don't match, what they should do is go back and fix the problem. What 4th graders like to do is be like, I made a mistake, next problem. And so, or the other thing that I'm noticing is they'll get to somewhere in here and realize, like, they might have forgotten to carry that 1 and came up with a 9 here, and then I'll see them look up to what the number is supposed to end up and just write it down here, and then I'll be like, well, that doesn't make sense. And so, if they're working on it at home, I'm not saying watch over them like a hawk, but just be kind of aware of the things that they try to do. So the other subtracting across zeros thing is my lovely hand-drawn example over there. So 900 minus 12. Now, if they obviously can't take 2 away from 0. So they go over, that becomes an 8. If they get such in the habit of over a double 0, they both eventually turn into a 9. They might turn that into a 10, and then that into a 9, and then that into a 10, and then into a 9, which is incorrect because that 0 is where you're going to. So it's really important to develop with them a very strong understanding of where you're borrowing to and where it stops. Just because you're C double 0 doesn't mean they're both going to turn into a 9. In 9 cases out of 10, 8 cases out of 10, I don't want to give myself that small margin of error. But in the vast majority of cases, especially in 4th grade, when they see the double 0, yeah, they are eventually both going to turn into 9. But in some cases, if they need to borrow from that second 0, it stops and stays there as 10. So subtracting across zeros, which I think I even included on the slide that's going to talk about common mistakes, is by and large the biggest mistake that 4th graders make with addition and subtraction. They don't make too many mistakes with addition just because that's one of the very first computation things that they ever do in their schooling career. The subtraction across zeros is one thing that definitely always needs work. Estimating, like I say here, is just a really fancy way of saying round first, and then you add or subtract when you don't need an exact answer. And the examples I said, it's like grocery shopping. When I'm grocery shopping, I don't even know. Oh, that's $29.97 and $30. But so they do need to make sure that they round to the same place. And what I mean by that is this has 1,000 place, but this does not have 1,000 place. So you can't round this one to the 1,000 place and then this one to the 100 place. That's just not how it works. You have to go to the greatest place that they both have in common, which in this case is the 100th place. The same adding and subtracting rules still apply. So in this case, you see that the greatest place was the 100th place. So they rounded both to 100th place. So
We just wanted to know if it was a trick question.
when I got the message, I was like,
Was I the only one that voted that?
other than the kids the next day.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to be like, I should have, yeah, I was just trying to see if they actually paying attention. But I wanted to. But so I also have to check with the exact answer because I tell them if when you check with the exact answer, they should get something close to your estimated answer. They just want their 26 off. Depending on what place value you round to, they are going to be a couple thousand off. Like if I was, these were bigger numbers and we rounded to the 100,000 place. Yeah, they might be like 13,000 off from each other. But that would be kind of acceptable because of the place value round to. Now, if you rounded them both to the 100,000 place and you're off by like 400,000, you made a mistake somewhere because depending, they shouldn't be off by too much in a face value that you rounded to. What estimation is if they understand rounding, they understand adding and subtracting, as long as they just remember that the words or estimation, like about, close to, approximately, they see those words, then they're good. The alternative way of estimating, which isn't gonna always get the exact same answer, is if they just do the exact problem and then see what is closest to. So like if they do the exact problem and then one of the multiple choice answers is 3,000, they might say, well, I think it's 3,026 is an answer. They might go back and reread the problem. What does it say about just to estimate 3,026 is close to 3,000. So two different ways to approach it. You're gonna end up with the same answer either way. So word problems, which I know are things that strike a lot of fear into fourth graders and fourth grade teachers. They come in two different varieties, which is a single step wherein it's just a cut and dry. Johnny has 17 apples, he got 14 more. How many does he have now? Cut and dry example and that. Now the other one, which they will see a lot more on in fourth grade, are multi-step examples. That's when there is going to be multiple steps, where they're going to need to either add two numbers and then add again, or they're going to need to add two numbers, then subtract, or add them, subtract, and add. But it's really just about attacking the word problem with the different skills we've been practicing in class and all the quick video, all the underline the clue words, circle the numbers, box out the question, strike through the stuff you don't need. If they understand the clue words with sum together, total, and all words that mean that you're getting more of something, those are addition. Subtraction clue words mean difference, less, more than, smaller, shorter, decrease, or extent. As long as they really think, they slow down and they think about what the word problem is asking them, they will pretty much do very well. When we had our multi-step problem video, I think it was Monday, and then they came in on Tuesday ready to practice, I'll be the first to admit I was scared of how it was going to do with the problem in the morning. And by and large, the vast majority of them got it correct because they really did slow down and think. So I was very impressed. I didn't actually have to prompt many of them to do the steps like circle the stuff, underline it. And the word problems for addition and subtraction aren't going to be too terribly difficult because the word problems are, well, they might be a little bit wordy. They're kind of cut and dry. You know when you're supposed to add, when you're supposed to subtract. When we get into multiplication and division, that's when they might add when they multiply when they're supposed to divide, or vice versa, because multiplication and division are both newer concepts to them in fourth grade, so they might not know exactly when they're supposed to use each. So a couple of examples of adding and subtracting for whole numbers. This is going to be one of the more cut and dry ones, where it says what is the difference between 2,240 and 578. That's a single step problem, but the thing that might throw them off there is not knowing what the difference means. Trying to reinforce from the beginning rather than giving the problem to say, add this or subtract this, or we're really trying to say, find the sum, find the difference, because that means we need to clue them in from the start that they're not going to really see at many points in their educational career that it's just going to be, plus sign or a minus sign. It's going to say find the sum, find the difference. So just making sure that they know difference is subtract, sum is add, total is add, all those different words. This one here is a multi-step problem. It says that Mr. Gary's class has a goal of selling 500 pizzas in 3 months. His class sold 135 pizzas in the first month and 257 pizzas in the second month. exactly how many more pieces does the class need to reach school. That's a multi-step problem and it's a very wordy problem for a very basic thing that I was trying to ask. There are a couple ways that you can approach this problem. You know that the total that they want to get to is 500. So the way that I personally would approach this is I would take 500 minus 135. So that's how much they still have to sell after the first month. I would subtract the other 257, and then that would be my answer. The other way that they could attack that is saying like, well, they need 500 and they've already sold this month, so they could sell those. They could add those two for how much has been sold and subtract it from their total that they're trying to sell. Either way, they're going to end up with the same answer. One of the cool things about math is that you can approach it in multiple different ways and still end up with the same answer. It doesn't necessarily matter how they get there if they get it correct at the end of the day. So again, going through that, they would underline probably goal, sold, first, second, exactly, many more. Those would be the words that they would underline for their clue words. You go back and circle 500, 135, 257. They would box out the question, and luckily in that one there's not any information that's not needed, so they would have anything from that. On this one down here, which goes from a table and then a question, which they're going to see a lot of tables, which in my opinion, the summing tables could just be in the problem. They don't need a problem table as well. That's another conversation for another day. So it's based on the table which is closest to the difference between the total number of miles traveled on day 1 and 2 combined and the number of miles traveled on day 3. So that's a multi-step problem. On top of multi-step problem is also an estimation problem and an adding and subtraction problem. So you see that here it says closest to, so you know that's going to be eventually at some point in this you're going to have to estimate. It says days 1 and 2 combined, so you're going to need to add days 1 and 2, and then it says the difference between days 1 and 2 combined, and then from day 3. Your head hurts, that's totally normal. So that is, so you would need to add those two, then subtract it, also while remembering to estimate. So multi-step problem, very involved problem, but if they slow down and really go through the steps of what it's asking them to do and don't get intimidated by the fact that there's a table and a bunch of words there, they'll do perfectly fine because they have the computation skills, or that if they don't at this present moment, they will have the computation skills to do it, and they have the steps to attack the word problem, and so they just need to slow down and make sure that they don't get the anxiety level. And parents and teachers also need to make sure that word problems aren't treated as these like terrible, scary things. So common mistakes is obviously going to be not lining up the place values correctly. If you don't line up the place value correctly, regardless if you do the computation correctly, you're not going to get to the right answer. Addition, subtraction mistakes. First, not putting the larger number on top of the subtraction problem. I've seen a lot of students, especially in the checking step with an addition problem, it might be like the bottom number, like it might be like 12 plus 8, and then equals 20. And they might try to do 8 minus 20 because that's how it appears on the problem. I try to always get them to, no matter what, addition or subtraction, always put a bigger number on top because that's going to make it easier. And it's interesting to watch the thought process because, especially when we get to the bigger numbers, like up to a million, when they're going across and they get to the last place value, and they know, well, something's gone wrong here because I don't have anything next door to go to bar. Well, you tell me, well, we're wrong. And then they'll kind of look back and see if they're going to subtract mistake somewhere. Then eventually, hopefully, they'll get to the fact that they put the wrong number on top, but really having them really kind of understand what they're doing. We've already talked on subtracting cross errors, but that's like subtraction mistakes, that the quicker they understand that and fix that, it'll make subtraction for them easier. Not checking their work, because if they don't check their work, they're not 100% sure that they got that question correct. I've had students past year who were very, very worked very, very hard in math and thought that they had a very, very good solid understanding math, would zip through it and not check any of their work, versus a student who might not have been as confident in their math abilities and maybe took a couple class periods to complete an assessment, was checking each and every problem and ended up outperforming the student who thought they were very confident and zipped through it. because I didn't check it. But I mean, that's a good example too. Like, I mean, I made a mistake, embarrassing, but it shows me that I should have checked every single example, and then also not interpreting the word problem correctly. This can be a mistake that I make. Um, but pretty much that is the gist of it. So ways to practice. IXL B is going to be all about addition. IXL C is going to be all about subtraction, and IXL F is going to be all sorts of word problems and mixture view. F4 will be really, really a great resource to practice word problems after we've done multiplication and division, because it's mixed review of multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. If you put them on F4 at this present moment, they will probably feel very frustrated because it's going to give them a lot of multiplication and division. Once we're done with multiplication and division, that's going to be a really good resource to practice because it's going to.
Oh, I do want, sorry.
Okay, never.
I was just gonna ask if it's not there, I sell.
Yeah, they're set up. I was set up home paper like the first week of school with their login information.
I'm sorry, I'm asking their login.
Okay. Have Emily remind Emily in the morning, and then she can write it because they have cards for the classroom, and she'll write it down. But it's, generally speaking, for IXL, all their login information are their first name and their last initial, and either 471 or 544, and then the passwords are all HTTP. So, remember correctly, Emily's is Emily C 544. Always review the flip videos. The poker chips, they can. So poker chips that you can pick up like from the dollar store. I just got a set of like 100 poker chips, and I just wrote a bunch of random numbers on them, anywhere from 1-digit numbers all the way up to, I think I maxed out about 4 digits because it's hard to write 4 digits on a poker chip. You can just give them 2 of these poker chips and then have them kind of add or subtract them. And that would be also interesting because if you give them 2 and when you give them to them, the bigger number is on the bottom. That would be fun for your way that you can actually physically slide the poker chip on the top. Just a quick way. At the store, this will help a lot with estimation. Give your student like a clipboard, piece of paper, and as you're going through, tell them how much each, have them kind of keep a running tally of how much that they are, each thing is estimating. That'll be especially helpful once we get the decimals and adding and subtracting. And then tell them how much money you're going to give the cashier, and they have to figure out that was the amount of change. So that's all sorts of different things that they can do.
We do this backwards. I'll tell them we're going to try to spend $8 today. We get $8. $8 when we work backwards.
My own grocery bills.
It also gives them an idea of how much I can cost for this.
Yeah. I was not aware of that until I cut college and I was like, oh, I spent $70 and I yes, but the junk food's super cheap. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I got 3 things of candy corn the other day for $5 versus like a head of like broccoli was like $5 for like.
You're showing us the wrong grocery store.
Well, there's some. So those are all.
We'll give you some tips.
Well, I appreciate that. Plenty of ways to practice. Really, a lot of the different math websites that they have access to will kind of practice all of the different math skills. IXL, I find, is the best one to target specific skills because you can get on there and see specifically what skills you practice versus the different programs they like Prodigy or MobiMax for math. That's going to kind of give them piecemeal like a bunch of different skills. IXL is going to be a way to target their math skills. So that brings us to the end. Thank you very much for joining me. Just make sure coming here and learning is always important, but also helping your student at home is the more important part. I do really appreciate all the feedback I've gotten about the flip videos. It's, like I said, it's a new undertaking for the year, and so far, from what I've heard from students and parents, it does seem to be going relatively successful. On the next slide, after this one on your Chromebook, there's a little feedback slip. Anything like the start survey, you got to click on the link to bring up the next one. And then next week, at the same time, same location, will be the one talking about reading. We're going to be focusing mainly that'll be all